I'm Chika Eloy, and this is a conversation designed for BCD people with BCD people. On this show, we're running through the diverse cultures of talent at BCD Travel, and we're showcasing our most confident self-colleagues. So come on, let's go have some fun as we explore the different functions, spaces, faces, and the complexities across our world of BCD.
Well, hello to all of our listeners out there, and welcome back to another World of BCD episode where we're joined with Mr. Andy Webb, dialing in from Dallas. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Chika.
You and I have a bit of history. You know, we've worked together on several projects since I think around 2014. But let me pass you the speakerphone and just introduce to our listeners, who are you, what do you do, and what do you bring to BCD, Andy?
Sure. Again, my name's Andy Webb. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm based out of a home office, and I'm part of the Global Client Finance team. Global Client Finance, our purview is to be in touch with our largest strategic clients. We keep an eye on our numbers as a company with those clients. How are we performing financially, internally? You know, reviewing our profit and loss with those clients.
Right.
Accounts receivable. Are we collecting our funds? I know you had Ian Withers on an earlier podcast, and we look at both our wholly owned and our partner markets. So how are we doing financially? Are we collecting our monies as we should? We also look as a team, this is not just what I do, but at our contracts. Are we performing to our contracts? Are we collecting the fees that we can? That's what our audit group does. And we also perform services for our clients in an external role by collecting management information for them in terms of their spend, their transactions with BCD, and just showing them what is their cost to having their travel program with us, basically. So that's an external function that we put together for the clients.
That's really that's a lot of thick work there, Andy. How many people on your team? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do. So with Elaine, our boss, there are a total of 11 of us. We're spread around pretty broadly. There's a good set of us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then again in Mexico City. We're over in Utrecht, Bangalore, Germany, and Spain. So we've got a pretty good footprint across the globe.
How do you find, if we can just talk on the people side before we jump back into the skills that you perform every single day, how do you find that some of the best techniques or the best ways of working with a global team occurs on your team?
Sure. And what I personally do is a little more separated from the group, but I work, I do a global reporting, profit and loss statement, accounts receivable, and whatnot, where I'm pulling data from partner markets, wholly owned markets. So in that sense of team, I'm working with a lot of people, outside of our immediate group. And I guess the biggest challenge is people get busy and trying to motivate folks that maybe aren't, immediately part of our group, inspire them to work with us, to provide us the information that we need so that we can get our jobs done. Obviously the time difference is always going to be a problem. The language difference can be a bit of a barrier. To which I'll say our team, we've got Spanish speakers, German. We've got a pretty broad set of language skills, which is very helpful. If I'm having trouble with a particular market, say in Latin America, well, I can leverage our teammate in Mexico City who speaks Spanish, obviously, and have her jump in and help me perhaps with the folks there.
Andy, when it comes back to your actual work that you and your team are performing on a daily basis, what are some of the tools that you use? Are you using different softwares? Are you just using Excel? What are some of the things you use to track and keep track of our finances?
Sure. And speaking from my point of view, and I guess with most of our team, we're Excel driven for the most part. Most of the reporting we put together will be in that Excel environment. When reports go out to senior executives, it's probably in an Excel format, maybe as a PDF or PowerPoint, but mostly in Excel. For what I do specifically with the profit and loss, we've recently shifted our Excel world into an SAP platform called BPC. business planning and consolidation. It's something it's a tool that's been used centrally in the Utrecht headquarters for some time. It's a database basically, and what I found, at least in my Excel world, is as we increased our scope in terms of reporting, back in the day, the GCT or the Global Client Finance was introduced to support the GCT, but our scope has broadened quite a bit, so we're no longer just looking at that subset of clients. So just in terms of data and the amount of information that we're managing, it reaches a critical mass at some point. And as much as I love Excel and can do a ton of stuff in Excel, it just bogs down at some point. So we've moved that into the BPC environment, which has been a great tool. I've got a ton of help from Robert Visser out of Utrecht, and he's basically built that for us. And that's my big challenge now, I guess, for 2019 is learning how to use that tool better to pull data out, to massage the data and whatnot.
So Andy, as an Excel wizard, and I know that in the role that you perform, and I know you personally as well, you've gone above and beyond the call of duty to become a wizard at Excel. For the standard 1.0 user of Excel like myself, are there some tips or tools or favorites that you would give me to either research, or you could teach me right now that would freak me out, blow my mind, make me a better Excel user?
I've got first and foremost a very mundane tip. Google is your best friend. If you think you can do it in Excel, there's probably some way to build a formula or maybe automate it with a Visual Basic macro, that sort of thing. But if you're not sure what that looks like, go to Google. Just put it in Excel, and then whatever you're trying to do, you'll find a ton of resources out there. And then within Excel, if you want to become a power user, I think you need to learn VLOOKUP. Is a classic formula that I use.
Do you say B or V?
V as in Victor.
VLOOKUP. Okay.
VLOOKUP. Become accustomed to using pivot tables. They're extremely powerful.
And for those of us that do not know what that is, what is a pivot table, and what use or advantage does it bring me?
So if I have my data in a spreadsheet somewhere, let's say organized in columns with column headers, client X or client, and then I've got a rows with the various client names, and then I've got air spend, hotel spend, rail spend, et cetera, and all the numbers going down. I can build a pivot table on top of that, which allows me to slice and dice the data. It's a little bit more automated. It's not formula driven. It points to your raw data, which is in a not so user-friendly format, and basically puts it into a user-friendly format for you. And it's flexible. It allows you to drag and drop columns, data points, whatever, into the table. It's something I think more folks should learn how to use, but I find that they get tricky. They can be difficult. And you mentioned at the start of the call, I think when we were offline, your switch recently to 2010. The Excel or Microsoft keeps changing the environment quite a bit, and there's more power in the pivot table world, in the Excel world. But I personally am having to keep up with all the new things I can do in Microsoft.
Updates.
365. Yeah, exactly. But,
and if we could quote unquote pivot for a second, I believe that you on your own have been schooling your own function around some of the updates, right? Do you run regular team learning channel? Like what do you do? Maybe you can lean in that direction for a second, Andy.
Yeah, sure. So and in fact, we've been doing that for years now. So I don't know, sometime back in 2014, to back up a little bit, I'm a bit of a self-taught hack in my terms as it comes to Visual Basic programming, which is Visual Basic is a programming language that sits on top of various applications, including Excel, and you can use that to basically automate tasks. If you find yourself doing the same thing over and over and over again within Excel or Word, PowerPoint, you could in theory use it there as well. If you find yourself doing repetitive tasks, you can probably automate that somehow with Visual Basic. So back in 2014, something I've used for years, decades, I guess. I saw a need within our team to help them get a little bit better with Visual Basic in particular. So we just started doing once a month, let's say, team call for those that wanted to participate. And I would just share with them my knowledge up to that point within Visual Basic, how to program at its basic, And over time, again, we started in 2014. I've seen some guys really, really progress, and it's gotten to the point where we've moved away from basic instruction, and either I or someone within the team may have a problem. We'll bring that as a project to the group call, introduce it, and then perhaps take it away, or maybe we'll solve it on the call. And in a few occasions, I've just handed off a task, and various people have come back with various solutions, and I use some of those solutions, still today to really shortcut and automate significant parts of my, again, repetitive type tasks. So
that's a really good example there, Andy, because I think that you're accomplishing two things. Not only are you and your colleagues teaching each other kind of peer-to-peer, which is something that we're trying to really drum up here in the BCD environment, but also you're creating like little hackathons where you're dropping in on each other's problems to solve.
Exactly right.
That's fantastic. And I would encourage all of our listeners to, in some way, shape or form, figure out a way you can do that in your own function. I know many functions do.
For what it's worth, let me just throw in there, I created a chatter group back maybe a year or two ago called VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, right? VBA Hacks. We just got a couple of folks in there, but I would say if there's anyone listening that is working in VBA and is having problems or has a question or whatever, put it out there on the chatter group. There are a number of very skilled people outside of our team that are on there as well that can be of assistance.
Good stuff, Andy. And when it comes to you, I know that you have a secret identity personally that would enthrall many of the listeners. Maybe you can lean into how you jump out of planes for a secondary living.
Yeah. Finance, right? It's a dry topic, so we've got to go somewhere to get our thrills, and that's 4,000 meters or 14,000 feet up. Actually, both my wife and I skydive. We've been jumping since 2004, I guess. Yeah, 2004.
Wow.
Coming up on
so
15
weekend
years.
weekend dates must be sensational. Hey, love, let's just go jump out of a plane this weekend because we can. What is your record amount of jumps in a year?
Back we used to live in Germany for a while, and back then I think probably a couple hundred, 200, 250.
Wow. That's awesome because during the week he's managing risk on paper, and during the weekend he is jumping out of planes. Fantastic, Andy.
That's a good point. It's all about risk mitigation. I've got somewhere north of 1,500 jumps. I've never had to use my reserve. I've never had any, knock on wood, major incidences. So it's a fairly safe sport. It's developed quite a bit.
Well, Andy, I appreciate your time and jumping out of a couple of airplanes here with you just to understand a little bit more about what you do and specifically the training that you've brought to your team. I think that's a real fantastic idea for anybody at BCD that's hungry for more like yourself. So as we kind of round the corner here, I, with your permission, am going to ask you 5 random questions to which you have to give me the best quick answer you can. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, you've jumped out of planes hundreds of times. What do you think is the most amount of hours you've spent watching a TV show in the last 6 months?
Most amount of hours, 5.
How many photos do you have to take to get it right?
3.
Eddie, what sound should a seal make?
What sound should a seal make? Arf, arf, arf.
Great. And if there's a spider in your house, if you found a spider in your house right now, would you kill it or would you pick it up and set it free?
I would do neither. My toddler, he's 2 years old. He loves, for whatever reason, maybe it's my last name Webb, but he loves spiders. So I would get him, take him by the hand and say, "What is that?" And he would tell me, "Dawa." He doesn't say spider. He says Dawa. But yeah, the guy loves spiders. That's
fascinating. And then the final question that we always ask everybody on the podcast, Andy, is what's the number one thing you love about working at BCD?
I love the global environment. I like that my team that I'm on is spread, across the globe, as I mentioned, and just the contact that I have, around the world. I've spent a lot of time living overseas in Germany and Russia, and I although I'm now Dallas, back in the U.S., home based in Dallas, talking and working with folks abroad brings me that fulfillment and reconnects me with those places I've been or would like to go.
Andy Webb, thank you so much for your time today. And to all of our listeners out there, I'm going to include all of Andy's goods in the show notes. So if you need to reach out to him or you're interested in any of the things we've discussed today, I'm sure Andy will be happy to answer. Thank you, Andy, for being here.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.